Tonight, Labor looks to build on its majority in South Australia as One Nation looks to gain lower house seats at the expense of the Liberals. The Prime Minister defends the government's response to the Israel-US war on Iran as Donald Trump criticises allies. Northern Territory communities bunker down with tropical cyclone Narelle expected to hit the coast today. Indigenous community leader and giant of the arts world, Rhoda Roberts, dies at the age of 66. And the Matildas prepare to face off against Japan in the final of the Women's Asian Cup. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Mariam Saab with the top stories. First, South Australians head to the polls today with cost of living, housing and health all front of mind for voters. And while polling predicts a Labor landslide, it could mean disaster for the Liberals, with the election serving as a test of whether One Nation's apparent rise in popularity will translate at the ballot box. Reporter Brianna Fiore begins our coverage.
The nation's eyes are on South Australia today as voters head to the polls.
Good morning, good morning.
From Adelaide to the regions,
Good luck.
people were sure to have their say, and a democracy sausage, some even served by the Prime Minister himself.
You've got to put it on.
The cost of living, housing and health at the front of voters' minds.
Housing and, say, the lower class, the not so privileged, are doing it really tough.
They're doing a good job. I want to get rid of this ramping in the hospital, so.
Fuel prices are probably obviously a big topic. I'm paying an extra $50, $60 every time I fill up.
They're traditional issues, but this contest is far from the usual two-horse race. One Nation's national surge in the polls is facing its first true test in SA.
I'm sick and tired of what's going on. The politicians promise the world and give you nothing, and we're going to hell in the handbasket.
If the Libs don't win enough seats, there's no opposition. So Labor, through our Premier, can do whatever he likes.
The polls show Labor should win in a landslide.
Well, that's up to the people of South Australia, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
But are also putting One Nation ahead of the Liberals.
A lot of people are just very unhappy with the system because it's not working for them.
Leader Ashton Hearn putting on a brave face while facing a wipeout.
Stick with us because we're going to get back to basics. We've got the plan that's costed and detailed to deliver for you.
It's been a busy time at polling booths across South Australia, and after a long day of people queuing to vote, the focus now shifts from here to the count. Brianna Fiore, ABC News.
From high-fiving children, donning high-vis, snapping selfies and holding countless press conferences, it's been a busy month on South Australia's campaign trail. But it hasn't been without controversy, with an email bungle and a disendorsed candidate among the defining moments of the last 4 weeks. Will Hunter reports.
The writs have been issued for an election on the 21st of March that will determine the future of South Australia for the next 4 years.
Two leaders who've gone toe-to-toe, vying for South Australia's top job. They've pounded the pavement, dished out sweeteners for skilled workers.
It's actually really good.
Splashed cash towards small businesses, pitched fee-free public school plans to parents, and laid out housing policy brick by brick in the run towards the election.
Come on, mate, let's go.
With opinion polling pointing to a Labor landslide, the Liberal Party started on the back foot.
I've been saying since I became the leader around 70-odd days ago that we've got a mountain to climb.
That mountain seemingly becoming steeper as One Nation continued its surge above her party in support. But as ambulance ramping hit a new milestone, the Liberals gained some ground. An email bungle thrusting Labor's broken 2022 promise back into the spotlight.
It was quite bewildering that we were ramped given that Steve was clearly dying.
A grieving woman sharing the story of her partner's ramping experience, prompting the government to share an email with journalists filled with his praise for the health system. The only problem? It was from a different man with the same name.
It's pathetic, it's disgusting, and they've got a lot of explaining to do.
There has clearly been an error made here and it's not satisfactory.
Attention was quickly redirected back towards the Liberals. Its candidate, Carsten Woodhouse, under fire from Labor for his controversial statements.
I'll tell you what, feminism is demonic.
There's this whole reality pretending that same-sex marriage is real, like it's not.
I would characterise these views as shocking and extreme.
The Liberal leader forced to face the music.
At the end of the day, he is our candidate. I don't share those views.
But a day later,
that person is no longer a candidate for the Liberal Party.
Out on the hustings, One Nation called in some federal firepower.
It doesn't matter where I go in this country, the support is amazing.
Support remaining strong even after the party's local leader remained firm on his own controversial remarks, linking gay marriage to bestiality almost 14 years ago.
I stand by 100%. I'm not apologising or retracting anything I said.
These comments were wrong and offensive when Corey Bernardi first made them.
And on the eve of the election, an ABC investigation reveals One Nation candidate AOE Baxter has been charged with a sexual offence in the UK, and the government there has a warrant out for his arrest. The party has since distanced itself and removed his profile from its website. A rollercoaster campaign, with the decision now left in the hands of voters. Will Hunter, ABC News.
Well, the eyes of the country are on this election, and we have reporters at party functions right across the state. Catherine Birmingham is at Labor headquarters, Angelique Donnellan is at Liberal HQ, Evelyn Manfield at the One Nation function. First, we'll go to Catherine Birmingham at Labor headquarters. Catherine, what's happening where you are?
Mariam, I'm here at The Drive, the tennis centre in Adelaide, and this will be the location for Labor's headquarters tonight. But as you can see behind me, there's not a great deal happening here right at the moment, and that's because polling booths are still open in South Australia until 6 p.m. local time. After that point, we're expecting that Labor's supporters will eventually make their way here into the campaign headquarters to watch the count, and later on tonight, we're also expecting that the Premier, Peter Malinauskas, will also make his way here to deliver what's widely expected to be a victory speech tonight.
With that landslide victory expected there, what's the feeling heading into the evening?
Well, you're absolutely right. Labor is expected to win tonight in a landslide, and I've been speaking to some people in the party throughout today who say that they're heading into tonight feeling confident, that they're feeling optimistic. The feeling on polling booths today has been positive. They haven't noticed a great deal of anger from voters, so it's a good sign for an incumbent government. And on the question of One Nation and how they'll do at this election, they're saying that they're expecting that their primary seat could drop in a couple of outer suburban and regional seats, but they're not expecting at this stage that One Nation will pick up any lower house seats. Of course, those are just predictions, and we'll have to wait and see what happens when the votes start getting counted after 6 p.m.
Before we head to One Nation, we'll go to our reporter Angelique Donnellan, who's at the Liberal headquarters in Morphettville. Angelique, the Liberals aren't expected to win tonight, but what are they hoping to achieve?
The Liberals currently hold 13 seats in the House of Assembly. 8 of those are on a margin of less than 5%. So tonight will be about holding as many seats as possible, or saving the furniture, so to speak. But there are predictions they could be left with just a handful of seats. And the threat tonight isn't just coming from Labor. In some seats, independents will be a danger to them. And then there's also the wild card of One Nation, with recent polling showing the party higher on primary votes than the Liberals. Summing up how things look today, one Liberal told me things appear better than the polls suggest, but not as good as hoped. There is quite a lot of frustration from the Liberals that people are supporting Pauline Hanson without knowing much about her candidates. So there's no doubt tonight will be unpleasant for the Liberals, but they'll be hoping they don't fall too far behind, because come the next election in 2030, it will make it that much more difficult for them to try to win government.
And how has Ashton Hearn fared since becoming Liberal leader 3 months ago, hoping to restore her party's fortunes?
Well, she did take the job, yes, about 100 days ago, and at the time she said her party had a mountain to climb, and it has been extremely difficult for them. But as in regards to her performance, she's been solid, she's been confident, and she's been competent, and the party is happy all things considered with how she's gone. They feel they've had the policies right. They've had a focus on bread and butter issues such as cost of living and housing. And while Ashton Hearn has had one or two minor wobbles, overall her performance has been solid. But unfortunately tonight it is an absolutely tough ask for the Liberals, and they'll just be hoping they can hold as many of their 13 seats as possible. Realistically though, predictions are if they get 8 or 9, that would be a very good result, but it could be fewer.
Thank you, Angelique. Finally, let's go to Evelyn Manfield, who's following movements as closely as possible at One Nation camp. Evelyn, how's the party feeling about their chances?
Look, this is a big will they, won't they moment for One Nation. Of course, they've been riding high in opinion polls, not just here in South Australia, but right across the country. This, though, is their first electoral test. Will they be able to turn those opinion polls into seats? Pauline Hanson, the party's federal leader, has spent the week here in South Australia. She's been everywhere from Maitland on the Yorke Peninsula to Port Lincoln on the Eyre Peninsula, Coober Pedy as well, and back in Adelaide. The party's lead candidate, Cory Bernardi, a former Liberal senator. Look, you'll be hard-pressed to find someone that doesn't think that he'll be able to win an upper house seat tonight. It could be the case that the party also wins a second or more seat in the upper house. The real question is about, can it win lower house seats? When Cory Bernardi has been asked about this throughout the campaign, he says success is getting some representation in the South Australian Parliament. So very hesitant to put sort of an exact number on it. But when I spoke to a One Nation source earlier this week, they were sort of eyeing off 5 seats, largely in regional South Australia. Not saying that they're going to claim them, but certainly keeping a close eye on that. So look, that will be something that we certainly will be keeping a close eye on as the rest of the country looks to South Australia to see just how One Nation will go in the polls. The other thing I just want to mention is the primary vote as well. That will be a really interesting one to watch, because the party says if they do have a big primary vote, it's going to send a big message to the major parties, Labor and Liberal, who of course they've been referring to as the uni party.
Now, one thing you won't be able to keep a close eye on tonight, Evelyn, is the inside of that function room right behind you. We can see that you're outside rather than in the venue. Why is that?
The ABC has been banned from attending the One Nation function here in Adelaide's East. The reason for that is the party is unhappy with some of the ABC's coverage. Yesterday there was an ABC investigation published into their candidate for Adelaide, AOE Baxter. He has been charged with allegedly sexually touching a woman, and there is a warrant out for his arrest in the United Kingdom. So look, the party isn't happy with some of the ABC's coverage, so I'll be stationed out here tonight, but I'll certainly be working my hardest to bring you the best coverage possible to cover what could be a major night for One Nation here in South Australia.
Thank you, Catherine Birmingham, Angelique Donnellan and Evelyn Manfield. Well, with polls set to close shortly, here's ABC Chief Election Analyst Casey Briggs with the state of play.
4 years ago, Labor under Peter Malinauskas won 27 of the 47 seats in South Australia's Parliament. A pretty convincing win, pulling Labor back into government after just one term in opposition. And since then, Labor's position has only improved. Extraordinarily, they won 2 by-elections, gaining seats from the Liberal Party, from 2 former Liberal leaders who left the Parliament. And so, Labor enters this election holding 29 of the 47 seats. And if polls are any guide, that number might continue to grow after tonight. The polls are suggesting the scale of Labor's win could be roughly on par with the most lopsided election result in South Australian history. That was when the Arnold Labor government was swept out of office in the aftermath of the state bank collapse in the 1993 election. So we may be looking at a Labor landslide as the result of the title card fight, but there are lots of national implications and lots of interest in what's going to happen in the undercard fight, if you will. What's happening on the opposition benches, those that are not Labor members. Will the Liberal Party lose many seats from the 16 it holds notionally going into this election? And if so, who do they lose them to? To Labor in Adelaide, to regional independents, or even to One Nation, who are threatening them in many parts of this state? If polls are any guide, One Nation could well outpoll the Liberal Party on the statewide primary vote in this election. Could one nation win seats, though? That's a much trickier question to answer because the pathway to actually winning seats for one nation is quite complicated in South Australia. And the reason for that, well, there are several. Here are a couple. One is all of these regional seats where one nation tends to do better in regional parts of Australia. Most regional seats in South Australia have an independent incumbent or an independent who's been running a high-profile campaign for some time, and that complicates the electoral picture in many of these seats. So lots of complications in the areas that you would think one nation would be strongest. And then in Adelaide, well, one nation's vote tends to be lower, but the highest one nation votes we've seen recorded in Adelaide in recent history are in the southern suburbs and in the northern suburbs, and those are both parts of the city that are strongly held by Labor. Could one nation overtake the Liberal Party in these parts of the city? Absolutely, but they probably won't win the seats because they are held by Labor on such safe margins. So it could be we could be in the curious position at the end of this election count where one nation has more people voting for it as a first preference across the state, but the Liberal Party still retains more seats. Lots of mysteries, lots of questions and lots of national implications. We're finally about to be able to move away from the world of hype and speculation and polling because pretty soon we'll get some votes and then we'll get some answers.
And ABC News will have full coverage of the election live from Adelaide. That begins at 6 p.m. Central Daylight Time and streaming live on ABC iView. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is defending the government's response to the war in Iran as Donald Trump says the US is considering winding down operations against the Middle Eastern country. The US President also criticised key allies, including Australia, for not doing enough to help the US in its war in Iran.
Yeah, I was very surprised. Very surprised about Australia and what? What would you like them to do? Well, they should get involved, and I was a little bit surprised that they said no, because we always say yes to them.
Australia has signed on to a joint statement with key allies pledging readiness to send assets to the Strait of Hormuz to ensure safe passage for fuel ships. Mr Albanese rejected a claim from President Trump that Australia failed to give support in the Middle East, saying the government has done what was asked of them.
I'm not conscious of that at all. The truth is that we have said yes to the request of the UAE for the E-7 Wedgetail aircraft. That's operating there with personnel operating as well. In addition to that, we've sent MRAMs. That's making a difference as well to intercept missiles or drones aimed at the UAE. So we continue to provide the support that we have been asked to provide.
Donald Trump says he's considering winding down military efforts in the Middle East, but that he won't seek a ceasefire with Iran. The White House is making plans for the possibility of sending additional troops and warships to the region as Tehran threatens to target recreational and tourist sites worldwide.
A barrage of missiles blasts off from a secret location as the Middle East crisis deepens. Iran launching fresh attacks on Israel while calling for unity with its neighbours.
We do not intend to create divisions with Muslim countries. We are not seeking conflict or war with Islamic nations.
Weeks after his rise to power, Iran's new supreme leader still hasn't been seen in public. A statement read out on state media, threatening to expand attacks to the west.
Resorts, recreational areas and tourist and leisure centres around the world will no longer be safe.
Donald Trump says he is considering winding down military efforts, announcing he's close to meeting his objectives, including the protection of allies such as Israel, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait and others. But at the same time, he's confirming the deployment of thousands more Marines and ruling out a truce.
I don't want to do a ceasefire. You know, you don't do a ceasefire when you're literally obliterating the other side.
Iran's retaliation continues with an explosion ricocheting through Jerusalem's old city, smoke billowing from the area near sacred sites.
I looked up and suddenly I saw a cannonball just falling above me.
Israel's military is as determined as ever to destroy Iran's leadership.
Anywhere they hide, we will find them and eliminate them.
Further north, reprisal strikes between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon will soon enter their fourth week. The number of people sheltering at this school in Beirut has almost doubled to 800. Charities here are providing the essentials and some comic relief.
Even if it is a brief distraction, it's certainly a welcome one for these kids. Just a couple of hours ago, before this performance started, Israeli fighter jets were flying over Beirut, breaking the sound barrier, rattling this city once more.
We're standing here, nothing is moving us. We're not leaving Lebanon.
Defiance, their answer to this crisis. Matthew Doran, ABC News, Beirut.
Returning home, residents in the top end are being told to make their final preparations for tropical cyclone Narelle. The Category 2 system is expected to re-intensify as the storm moves west through the Gulf of Carpentaria. So communities along the Northern Territory's eastern coast are being urged to prepare for damaging winds, heavy rain and flooding. Narelle was downgraded overnight after it battered its way through Queensland's Cape York Peninsula, bringing heavy rainfall to the already saturated region. The Weather Bureau has issued a cyclone warning zone from Nulamboy to Port MacArthur. And a warning, the following story contains the name and image of Indigenous people who have died, and it's been used with permission. A giant in the Australian art scene and the woman credited with coining the term welcome to country. Rhoda Roberts, AO, has died of cancer at the age of 66. The Winjabul and Wayabul woman of the Bundjalung Nation, she was SBS's inaugural Elder in Residence. Indigenous Affairs reporter Stephanie Bolchi reflects on her achievements.
Rhoda Roberts was a creative director and cultural advisor to some of Australia's biggest festivals and celebrations, including Sydney's New Year's Eve fireworks.
I drew on a number of cultures around the world, but specifically Aboriginal culture because I happen to be a blackfella.
Leading up to the Sydney Olympics, she elevated Indigenous culture through the Festival of Dreaming and the iconic opening ceremony.
Celebrating something that's quite unique, it's incredibly powerful.
The Widjabul Wayabul woman of the Bundjalung Nation grew up in Lismore.
We grew up in a small country town where you were white or you were black. There was this invisible divide across the town.
I said I wanted to be a writer, a journalist, and I was told I was a dreamer.
Good evening, I'm Rhoda Roberts.
I became known as the first Aboriginal person to host a primetime current affairs program.
There's nothing better than a story with a positive ending.
Rhoda moved from journalism to the arts and was credited with coining the term welcome to country.
Makes people feel special. It's good manners.
The first head of Indigenous programming at the Sydney Opera House, in the role for nearly a decade.
I'm really proud of you because I know our old people possibly wouldn't have believed that this would be happening now.
Her family was devastated when her twin Lois was kidnapped and murdered.
I woke to a living nightmare and nothing has ever been the same. I lost my sister who was a mother and she graciously gave me her child to raise. Combined with a dance.
Acting was also a passion. And despite her diagnosis, she returned to the Opera House to perform her one-woman show, My Cousin Frank.
Yeah, well, clearly I inherited the preaching side of the family.
Rhoda Roberts has left an indelible mark on Australia's art scene.
The Matildas' moment of truth comes in the Women's Asian Cup final. That's tonight against Japan at Sydney's Stadium, Australia. ABC Sports' Amanda Shalala is there for us in amongst all the action. It looks very lively there, Amanda. Tell us, what does it feel like to be in there amongst the mix? Can you hear us, Amanda? We're having some technical difficulties. We'll just give it a few more moments to see if you've
Mariam,
got her.
Have you got me? I've got you now, Mariam.
Okay, fantastic. I've got you,
okay.
yes.
We've got there.
Yes.
It's pretty loud here.
We've got you. What's it like over there?
Yeah, it's fantastic, Mariam. Yeah, apologies for that. It was a little bit loud. Couldn't quite hear you there. The crowd is building really nicely here. It should be close to a capacity crowd at the 80,000-seat Stadium Australia. These fans are all so excited to see the Matildas in another major tournament on home soil. They made it all the way to the semi-finals of the 2023 World Cup right here against England, where they lost. They're hoping tonight they can turn it around and beat Japan. I've spoken to quite a few of the fans who are here tonight, and they say they're really excited and very confident too.
I am crazy nervous for the game, even though I'm not going on the pitch, but I think the Chili's have it in the bag, 100%.
I'm so nervous. I think it's going to go very well though. Like, look at the crowd. I think we're going to win for sure.
Coco, what's going to happen tonight? Who's going to win?
Matildas, of course.
And why do you think that?
Because they're the best, especially with the most amazing striker on their team.
And so she's your favourite player, is it Sam?
Of course.
So, Mariam, the fans have...
Have you got us, Amanda? Amanda, can you hear us? I think we've lost Amanda there. We'll try to come back a little later. A big one there. The Matildas, they're taking on Japan for the Women's Asian Cup final tonight. We'll come back to that a little later if we can. Adelaide has fallen agonisingly short against the Western Bulldogs. They've gone down by 6 points in a thrilling contest last night. A ferocious Crows final quarter comeback with some Isaac Rankin magic weren't enough to snatch the win at Adelaide Oval, with coach Matthew Nix left a little frustrated by his side's slow start.
It looked like it was going to be a dream return to the field for Isaac Rankin. In his first game back from his suspension for using a homophobic slur, Rankin's wonder goal put the Crows ahead in the dying stages. But the Bulldogs found a way back from the brink. The Dogs kicked 2 goals in 40 seconds to pinch the win, with Oscar Baker the unlikely hero. It had looked like it was going to be a straightforward win for the visitors, who burst out of the blocks and led for most of the night. Their lead was 25 points in the final term before Adelaide surged back with a quick flurry of 5 unanswered goals to set up the thrilling finish. But the coach was left to rue that sleepy start.
To get ourselves up and firing took us too long. I think we're probably lucky to be in it at half-time.
Adding to the confusion on a dramatic night was a clock malfunction for a big chunk of the final term, leaving both teams in the dark about how long was left.
Everyone was flustered because you weren't sure how urgent it was. The whole stadium went down. So you got to do what you got to do in that moment.
The result continued the Bulldogs' impressive start to the year, with 3 wins in a row over 2025 finalists. Jacob Kagi, ABC News.
A quick look at the national weather for tomorrow before we go. Brisbane and Sydney, possible thunderstorms. Canberra and Melbourne will be partly cloudy. Hobart, mostly sunny. Adelaide, sunny with a top there of 28 degrees. Perth, patchy cloud. And Darwin, rain with a top of 29. There's more on the ABC News app and on ABC iView. I'm Mariam Saab. Stay with us now for South Australia Votes.